started in contracting, part 2. So in this part, we're gonna go through how you actually get your first role, what the interview process is like, what your first kind of few weeks and months are like, and up to the end of your first contract. So for this video, I'm gonna assume you've quit your job and you're immediately available onto the market, you're in contact with the interim recruiters, they are putting you out to interview with different clients, and you're gonna secure your first role. So for the interview process, it's a one-round interview most of the time, usually no more than an hour, and from that you will be hired usually within a couple of days. It's a very fast process, which is handy because it doesn't waste your time, so you know if the client's interested. If they're not, it's not a big deal because you know you've got a load of other people who want to speak to you. You tend to get a lot of interest at certain times of year, and at other times of year you don't get as much interest. Happy to go through that in further detail if you want it. So from that first interview, you get offered the job. The amount of time you'll have from when you've accepted the job and starting at the company will be very short, usually 2 weeks max, often less. It's just basically enough time for the agency to get you onto their payroll and for the client to get your computers and whatnot set up. If you're working inside R35, if you're working outside, then you'll obviously set the process up yourself between yourself and the client. There's not, sometimes there's an agency involved, but sometimes there's not. So it just depends on what process you're following and what type of contract you are doing. So first day on the job. Now, I usually find, because it's such a short notice period for the company to get ready for you to come into the business, they are usually not ready for you. So when you kind of first arrive, it's usually a little bit hit and miss. Rather than kind of a formal induction process that someone might get as a permanent employee, who they've maybe had 3 months notice that that employee is starting, they might have a whole bundle of new employees who start on the 1st of the month, for example. You'll be coming in at a random time, and they usually don't have a formal kind of induction process for us. So what will happen is we go into the business, we might have a little bit of a one-to-one, but you'll usually be getting into the work pretty fast. Sometimes your IT equipment isn't ready, things like that. You've got to kind of just be flexible with how you're working. First day getting set up, then second day you're usually straight into the work. And remember, we've got to kind of perform and provide the work we are meant to be, otherwise they will get rid of you because you're usually on a 1 week's notice. So don't perform, you're out the door. Once you've been there a few weeks, there's no process like you'd have for a normal employee where you'd have maybe like probation meetings. There's nothing like that. You kind of just get feedback as you're going, and if there's an issue, you'll know about it. I've never had an issue, but I would assume if there was an issue, they would maybe talk to you, talk to your recruiter, and it kind of go from there. But I think probably if there's that much of an issue, you're in a bit of trouble and you'll be going shortly. So how you're treated within each team and each organisation is quite different. I've always had positive experiences with the way I've been treated, but there's often a difference with whoever your kind of more senior person is that you're working with as to how much kind of training and guidance they give you, because some people will just want you to go ahead and get on with the work and just deliver the work, whereas some people might want to do some more training. Usually if you're going to be with them for a longer time, they know you're going to be there for a longer time, so it's worth that investment of their time with you to have you doing exactly the things that they want. Both has their advantages and disadvantages there. Finally, when you come to the end of your contract and you're going to leave, usually as a permanent employee you would have a kind of exit interview. There's a load of paperwork to do. As a contractor, you will not have any of that. It will usually be, you might have a quick like interview, thank you, whatever, but it's not a formal process, and they're really just kind of being polite, but you know, no one cares too much about your feedback. I mean, do they care too much about your feedback when you're a permanent employee? Probably not. But there is a more formal process, and then you are just done and out the door and on to your next client.